Hello, all. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. A warm welcome to you all, and thank you for joining us here at Rainbow Secure Cyber Symposium 2022. Thanks to our event sponsors, Step Up Skills, Akashwani, Cyber Ethics, and community partners, BBWIC. As you're well aware, the event is scheduled on every Saturday or of October 1st, 8th, 15th, 22nd, and 29th. The topics for the symposium are application security, identity, data security, ransomware, and data privacy. This year, there will be speaker session and panel discussions on current cyber threats, cyber news, best practices, and innovations, everything that can help businesses to do business securely. We kicked off Cyber Symposium on October 1st, 2022, with our esteemed panelists Ranbir Bhutani and Dhaval Shah. We had an exhilarating hour of learning about major cyber incidents and its impact on business and organizations. We also learned how to protect business from account takeover attacks. Last year, we had great success with 60 plus industry speakers and technology visionaries gracing our event and helping us spread knowledge and cyber awareness. I once again thank you all for joining us here. Now, I would like to take this opportunity of welcoming our president, Nehal Mehta. Nehal is a visionary and has passion for cybersecurity, has inspired her to bring about innovative world-class security and solutions which are robust and user-friendly. She has graduated with BS degrees, BCA and Masters, MPA, Master in Performing Arts, Diploma in Indian Classical Dance. Her versatility, simplicity, and creativity has enabled Rainbow Secure great laurels and accolades, and a lot more in store for future. With a huge round of applause, I welcome Nehal.
Thank you, Shashi. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. I hope you all are having wonderful Saturday. I'm Nehal Mehta, President and co-founder of Rainbow Secure. I would like to give you a warm welcome to our honorable panelists and amazing audience. It's it is a pleasure to have you here at Rainbow Secure Cyber Symposium 2020. Thank you for joining us on October 1 for panel discussion. For your support and encouragement motivates us to bring about various initiatives for spreading a cyber awareness through our platform. Also, thank you to join today. All I like to welcome all our panelists. We have been conduct a various cyber awareness program for industry and society. In general, Rainbow Secure has pioneered in developing initiative and patented security product for IM, SSO, multi-layer and login solution to help a business conduct their business safely and securely. We try to solve a business account takeover kind of attack and try to solve the major industry problem here. Now I would like to request Sashi to please present the agenda for panelists panel talk and introduce our panelist. Welcome
Thanks,
again.
Nehal. So, agenda for today's panel talk is we'll be discussing on recent cyber incidents, what are the lessons to learn from them, and what is the role of human factor. I would like to take this opportunity of introducing our esteemed panelist for today. She is CEO, Technology and Marketing Ventures Inc., which is a leading service provider that offers venture development, management consulting, and advisory services for institutions, governments, and educational entities with its unique service line. May the tech be with you. She started her career at Federal Reserve Bank as the only women programmer, working with research analysts on monetary policy. Following her role at Federal Reserve Bank, she joined Merrill Lynch, where she worked on mission critical systems like real time code processing, securities research analyst support, and financial consultant compensation reporting. She then went on to work with IBM as a professional system engineer to support large banks, brokerage, and insurance firms. She has worked as division executive at Citigroup and vice president general manager of JP Morgan. She has been in seven leadership roles with major corps before venturing out on her own entrepreneurial journey. With every successful milestone in her professional journey, she has achieved and challenged herself to be a business leader. From being voted onto the IBM Credit Union Board, chosen to be the treasurer of National Association of Corporate Directors, New York City chapter, to sitting on the boards of a public global retail e-commerce firm, a UK mobile marketing and payments firm, California Higher Education Loan Authority, and Volunteers of America, or even speaking at Oxford University symposiums. Her list of achievements, awards, and recognitions is endless. She won the Most Influential Female CEO of the Year 2018 and was also awarded 10 Most Daring CEOs in Tech Business to Follow in 2020. I welcome June Clean, a name synonymous with excellence in business leadership, breaking norms, taking challenges, and bringing forth par excellence in whatever she does. Ma'am, I can go on and still will not be able to speak about your wonderful journey in the limited time we have. I request you to kindly speak a few words about yourself. Welcome on board, June Clean.
Thank you so much, Sashi. I'm very pleased to be here, and I'm taking a slightly different perspective than I ex- think the other people might be taking. So, my assumptions and perspective on cyber risk is that cyber risk is obviously very important, but it's really only a sliver of all merged strategic risks. And to conquer total risk, it must be led specifically at the CEO level. And risk must be managed in a entirely new way as we have entirely new problems. So I look forward to talking about it and sharing with you a lot of information that you won't hear from anyone else. Thank you.
Thank you, June. Our next panelist for today Sri Bhatia. He is a co-founder of Akashvani. He's an information security professional with over 17 years of IT experience and 10 plus years within cybersecurity realm. A decisive leader who has ability to resolve problems in a proactive and efficient manner, adding to each project's success. Goal-oriented professionalism with the capacity to analyze business processes and lead innovative projects from concept through execution. I would request Sri Sir to speak a few words about himself. Sir, your mic is off, sir.
Sorry about that. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir, we can
Awesome.
hear you.
Sorry about that, but thank you everyone, for inviting me on here this panel. I'm very honored to be here with all of these experienced people, and I think it's very important what Rainbow Secure is doing with the symposium, trying to educate more and more people with what type of cyber challenges that are out there and how to mitigate them. So very honored to be here, and I look forward to sharing a lot of information and learning a lot too. So thank you, Shashi.
Thank you, Sri Sir. Our next honorable panelist for today, Robert Jones. He's the founder of Pre-Safe Technologies. He's a proven executive leader with a record of aligning technology with business to create innovative solutions that drive change. Demonstrated success enhancing operational efficiencies, increasing revenues, developing solutions, deploying and upgrading technologies, and directing IT initiatives to improve business processes. I would like to request Robert Sir to speak a few lines about himself.
Well, hello, everyone. I want to thank those of you in the audience that have joined us this morning, or at whatever time it may be. We want to thank you for joining us. To my panelists, colleagues, I want to thank you also. I know we're going to share quite a bit of information that helps enlighten the audience and certainly offers greater awareness and information. And then most of all to you, those of you at Rainbow Secure, thank you for having me. And I am humbled and honored to be with you as a panelist today. I'm excited by that. I'm sure we'll reinforce the various ideas amongst ourselves. June talked about policy. Uh, Sri talked about some of the operational aspects. I am going to make sure I touch on critical infrastructure and the importance of cybersecurity there, amongst other things. Over to you, Sashi.
Thank you, Robert, sir. So our next panelist for today, Dhaval Shah. He's the CEO of Rainbow Secure. He wears multiple hats of cybersecurity advisor, security architect, inventor, and helps in inventing geo-ACL rainbow password, passwordless, and smart multi-factor technologies. He brings his amazing experience and technical leadership to Rainbow Secure to innovate remarkable IAM SSO platform that solves login, data security, and privacy pain. I would request Dhawal sir to speak a few lines about himself.
Thank you, Sazi, for the great intro. Myself, Dhaval, and I'm a director, co-founder, CTO at Rainbow Secure. I had always been passionate about what new. I had been since like I was in grade eight. Whenever something hear a news about NASA or I hear something about new kind of device or gadget get introduced, I clearly remember my thought when I saw for the first time our school had got some brand new devices. It had some kind of attachment like a typewriter, but it was kind of what I had already seen in television. This is way back in India when I was in school, and I clearly and immediately recognized, hey, this is computer. I know Prime Minister was talking about new digital revolution. So since then, it has always been a quite my passion to learn new things, whether it's in technology from the bio side. It has been something that eventually led me to go and graduate to masters in IT, and I ended up developing quite a few solutions very early in my career. That passion led me to actually formalize what I do. I contributed over last decade and quarter in an industry while gaining vital experience and working across different verticals like pharmaceuticals, finance, healthcare, and government. And I would say that I had always, God has always been kind to me to have nice people around me. And, today I'm humbly honored to have, esteemed panelists like you guys and, sharing the platform with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dhawal sir. Thank you, esteemed panelists, for today. Now, I would request you, maybe with your kind permission, maybe please begin the panel discussion for today. So, my first question is, so what, according to you, are the challenges of keeping businesses running against growing cyber threats? So, may I request June ma'am to kindly address the question? Should I repeat the question? What, according to you, are the challenges of keeping business running against growing cyber threats?
Yeah, is that to who is that to directed to? I'll be happy to respond.
Okay, sure, please, sir.
Yeah.
Anyone would
So,
like to?
so, so technology has become an integral part of every aspect of a business, right? And in fact, practically every aspect of society. The challenge is that technology, as it's introduced or innovated and rolled forward, it carries with it vulnerabilities. Uh, if I were to quote a reference, there are about 20 to 30 vulnerabilities per every 1,000 lines of code. So that's 2 to 3%. And so as the code bases continue to expand and we introduce patches and updates and things, even those have vulnerabilities within them. And so we're constantly faced with cyber vulnerabilities that we have to mitigate in order for the business to continue to operate and thrive. And so that's where I see some of the challenges that are they're here among us, and we've got to build security in up front. Over to you, Sashi.
Thank you, Robert. So, anybody would like to address it?
I'm wondering how many people are aware of the word that's bubbling up in most Fortune 1000 corporate boards. Go ahead, Robert.
Supply chain risk, cybersecurity supply chain risk.
Very good one, very important. I'm going to level it up a little more. Any other ideas?
I would say,
Okay. Oh,
yeah,
what was that?
I can try. Say maybe like the data security itself, like because compliance is something that is government regulations is
Mm-hmm.
forcing them to think about securing data that may be for the employees, for the customers. So yeah.
Absolutely. How about you, Jerry?
Um, for me, I personally feel that I think definitely there's a human factor as we're gonna get onto that. But in the end of the day, that's the biggest link. Insider, threats are up to 40%, if I'm not wrong, to start with. So for me, it would be something like that.
I agree with all three of you. But the answer is counterintelligence, corporate counterintelligence.
Yes.
And I have identified corporate counterintelligence in my TMVI algorithm, which actually discovers and assesses strategic risks and new opportunities. I'm now expanding that process to do a deep dive into corporate counterintelligence and tailored business wargaming, uh, because this will empowers corporations to remain competitive in our very fluid risk environments. And the risk life cycle today is not in years, it is now measured in days and months. And current methods have proven totally ineffective. And that's because they're based on obsolete assumptions of past periods. And this leaves your company and yourself increasingly vulnerable like no other time in history. So, conquering strategic risk is really a daunting task, but not hopeless.
Mm-hmm.
CISOs, CEO, and board members need customized education so that they can actually conquer risk. And so I'll be covering, if you're interested, in a bird's eye view of this biggest risk that we face today.
Mm-hmm. I
Good. Yeah,
agree.
we'd like to hear. Yeah, we'd like to hear more.
Okay, now? um, very quickly, I'd like to share with you the FBI director's remarks to business leaders in London on July 2022 speech. Quote, we consistently see that it's the Chinese government and the Chinese Communist Party that poses the biggest long term threat to the United States, United Kingdom, and Europe. Now, I want to make a note to that to make it perfectly clear that this threat is not focused on the Chinese people, and certainly not Chinese immigrants in our countries who are themselves frequently victims of the Chinese government's lawless aggression.
Yeah.
Second note about that. Yes, I know many of you are thinking not just China, it's Russia, it's North Korea, and a bunch of others, but I'm highlighting the most important problem to address today. And with that in mind, I would introduce my theory that business and entertainment are intertwined.
Yes.
And this is evidenced by my copywriter tip to you, which is unleash important things to your audience, but don't be boring. So on October 14th, there will be a private showing, and then it will be in select theaters. And then after that, I'll share a link with you when it's open to the public. And the showing is a significant documentary, which is called The Final War.
Mm.
And it's about the Chinese Communist Party's unrestricted hybrid war to take over the free world. The film is visually and professionally explains the who, what, why, and how of China risk. And I'll be if you sign up on my newsletter or send me an email when the link is available, I'll be glad to share it with you.
Thank you, June.
Thank you very much.
So I would request to ask you about. So there have been series of recent cyber incidents on our businesses and critical infrastructure. So what do you think are the lessons we can learn from them?
Sure, Robert, you can go.
Yes, Robert.
Yeah. So clearly, each breach has a signature, right? Each breach, there are tactics and techniques that threat actors are using, and we can learn something about each of them. But at a minimum, what we have to do is ensure that there's a baseline of good cyber hygiene in place to ensure that businesses can withstand the typical kinds of attacks, and they're resilient in that if they are breached, they can recover rather quickly. So we can go through a variety of different things, but I want to start right here with what Rainbow Secure is all about. Identity and access management is probably the most pivotal component of what cybersecurity represents. I mean, there are lots of controls, but identity and access management is one whereby you're authenticating someone, and then based on who they are, you're allowing them to gain access to what they're eligible to gain access to. Of course, if you compromise my credentials and I have, let's say, super user access, meaning I can do anything, you can now do anything. And so you can see that identity and access management is pivotal in that it covers the waterfront with every aspect of the operation of the system. Setting up the operating system itself, authorizing other users, data, the performance of the system, the diagnostics, everything. Once you are able to see and actually act upon parameters within the system, I mean, the threat actor takes over and they become detrimental to you and your business. So identity and access management, I think, is one of them. And what we do, again, is to learn from each of the breaches in an effort to make sure that we bolster what represents good cyber hygiene. And you can look to Center for Internet Security Top 20 Controls and NIST and others for insight on what good cyber hygiene looks like. Over to you.
Thank you, Robert. Double sir, would you like to
Well,
add something to it?
Yeah, I would like to first let Sri go. Yeah, Sri can put more light on it.
Yeah, sure. Talking about critical infrastructures, as we are saying, I just wanted to go through run through a scenario, so we all can kind of share your input into it. Uh, Critical infrastructures, we have 16 sectors that are divided by CISA, if I'm not wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when people look at this list, it has communication, it has chemical companies, IT, nuclear reactors, all that sounds good, but on layman terms, just to understand how can things affect us day to day when things go haywire or things go wrong, there's also food and agriculture in there, on that list, right? So to a lot of people, it's like, oh, that's not a big deal, food and agriculture, it's just farms and stuff. So what does food and agriculture really include? it actually includes the 2.1 million farm the United States has, including 935,000 restaurants, almost close to a million restaurants, and at least 200,000 production, facilities, if you will. So now we have certain countries who are specifically trying to target our the bad actor countries, if you will, trying to target our systems in our country. Let's just look at the farms. Nowadays, the sprinkler systems, you have the health check system for the plants. Everything is automated. A lot of them are IoT devices. They're getting more and more complex with this. A bad actor just has to target even 10 to 20% of a state's farmland or something, and compromise some of those devices. Just say that, add a little extra water, all of a sudden the crops have gone bad, and now we have some serious food shortage, because all the expected food supply that we're supposed to receive has gone bad. You can see that when these sectors are divided into these, there's a reason for it. There's a real statistics behind it that affects our lives on day-to-day scenarios, and we need to adhere to the CISA guidelines. We absolutely stay to check. We have our detect, respond, our five different identity, protect, detect, respond, and recover. Sorry about that.
Mhm.
But we definitely need to look at this at every time. They might look very high level on guidelines, but if you start to
I think there is
A little
some
glitch.
network glitch.
Just a moment. Yes, three is back.
oh, did I get disconnected?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
last line. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying, yeah, that's just my take on it.
Yeah. June, do you want to take a shot at it? If not, I certainly have something to add to that. I just want to,
Okay.
yeah, I just
Oh,
want to,
go ahead, Robert.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Robert.
So I happen to have a role as the chairperson of the Air Traffic Control Association Aviation Cybersecurity Programming Committee. ATCA Global is a large conference we're having in Washington, D.C., November 7th through the 9th. It's going to talk about airspace integration. So what do I mean by that? So Sri was leading to food and agriculture and some other aspects of critical infrastructure. Well, transportation is critical infrastructure, and specifically aviation. We move 44 billion tons of freight, if I'm not mistaken, by air each year. There are 19,000 airports. Let's see, almost 900,000 uncrewed aerial systems, a fancy word for drones. But we are now seeing new changes to the national airspace, which will be commercial spaceflight, supersonic transport, those uncrewed systems, and what we call advanced air mobility. And I'm going to go through this really quickly. What you'll see in the future is something that looks a lot like this. So those are personal transports that are flying, and as you can imagine, air traffic management will be crucial. I talked to you about the supersonic transport. Well, they're going to talk about hypersonic, and in order to manage hypersonic transport, you're going to need advanced systems to do so. So if those systems are compromised, now you've lost the ability to manage the systems, and this was advanced conflict detection, and this is what the world will look like in terms of transport, and we'll have to manage that. So the airspace will move from a individually managed airspace by the FAA to a federated airspace, and that means lots of different players, lots of different systems, lots of information being shared, all with the aim of ensuring that safety for the flying public is maintained. So you can imagine if we find compromise anywhere, we have a problem. And risk management, cybersecurity risk management across the entire cybersecurity, the risk management across the entire ecosystem will be crucial. Yeah, the supply chain will be crucial. That is where we're focusing. You're going to hear a lot about that from CISA. CISA will be joining in that session in Washington. as well as the the Center for Naval Analysis. Yep, over to you.
I agree with what Robert and Sherry say. And these are all big problems, and they all cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so I think that the biggest mistake that everyone is making is that they're viewing cyber risk alone as a
Yes.
huge accounting cost.
Right. Right.
It has to, the only way we're going to solve all these things is it must be viewed from the CEO and the board, must
Yes.
be led by them, and it has to be a key component of all integrated strategic risk. And adding on to another aspect, the modern battlefield is everywhere. The core focus of unrestricted hybrid warfare is espionage and IP threat,
Yeah.
IP theft rather, and info attacking, or rather cyber warfare, is really the key accelerator, and that to all unrestricted hybrid warfare.
Yeah. Very good points, Joe.
Yeah,
Thank
wonderful.
you.
I just like to add, small things here, with all the recent threats that we are seeing across the different domains, you see the motives might be someone is just trying to do a ransomware attack on you, and make want to make quick bucks, versus someone want to actually disrupt your business and your country's economy. That's there. Now, there's also area where what people do, as June mentioned, the counterintelligence. Like they do more for the sake of knowing what you are up to, and potentially maybe also trying to steal your IP. And that's what we witnessed with Moderna and other cyber attacks during the middle of COVID vaccine development. So uh, those were the scenarios. I think it's now what we can do is that at least do three things. One, build a knowledge base of the lessons learned
Yeah.
during this cyber attacks, and not just sit on it, but also need to have an interactive collaboration, threat intel sharing, the way it has been done in a traditional domains between the countries. Here, it has to happen between the corporations as well, and some of the states has taken that initiative. Like for example, in our state of New Jersey, they have a cyber crime center, New Jersey Cyber Crime Center, and we have organizations like FBI Infragar, where I'm a member. So it's like public-private participation, and I think more and more organizations to get involved at those places, and lessons learned in terms of how they fought back, how they stopped the leak, and how and in what manner they responded with the compliance requirement. I think that's the key here,
Yeah.
because everybody, one day or other gonna get hacked. But what you do to
Hmm.
prevent it in the future, or what you do to minimize the risk out of such attacks, that's important. And I
Yeah.
think yeah, Robert, go ahead.
Yeah, well, not to stop you, just, I mean, if you finish your thought, I want to emphasize here that there are information sharing and analysis centers,
Mhm.
ISACs, that are across pretty much every industry. And what Deval is talking about is the coming together and collaborating and sharing of information. Now, the federal government had taken the step to help enhance the willingness to share information by introducing um, laws aren't what the word I'm looking for, but introducing a posture that says, hey, listen, if you share information, that's not going to lead to class action litigation against you. We're gonna help to protect you from that. So part of what was an impediment to assuring or bolstering the cyber posture across all companies was it's very good intention to share information. But the problem you encounter is, hey, listen, I'm sort of opening up and telling you all of what happened to me, and now these customers are coming and saying, hey, listen, you didn't do a good job, and you told us you didn't do a good job, and we're going to file suit against you. And so the federal government has helped the ISACs with minimizing the liability associated with sharing information in a public forum like that. So I think what you're saying, Deval, is very important. Someone is bound to have encountered a situation that you are about to encounter, and if you knew about that, the impact would be significantly less. Over to you.
Yes, yes. So the one last thing I wanted to add was that companies, corporations should also have some sort of you can say, like a link on their website
Mm-hmm.
or some kind of a contact number where people can reach them out if they think that the text message or the email they have received
Yeah.
looks suspicious. So just for the second, cross check against the source, so that will stop at least more than 50% of the phishing attacks that people are going through.
Mm-hmm.
People often get messages like, hey, your PayPal account is gonna get disabled, or hey, your you got a certain mail, or hey, you got your order is you know, already dispatched or something, that makes you feel urgency. So corporations should have some sort of a mechanism where even the customers can quickly reach and report. This kind of mechanism already exists in many companies for the employees. If you see
Mm-hmm.
suspicious email, you got a button in your Outlook say report suspicious email, right? Something similar to that, if corporations adopt that kind of standard, so that it's easier for the people to cross verify and get going in their lives, rather than getting victim of phishing attack or getting stressed out, panic. What will happen if this really a important message?
Previously, I ran the U.S. government banking business for J.P. Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd like to pinpoint what something that is encouraging, and that is all the talk right now about government and corporate partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
Because the fact of the matter is, everybody in cybersecurity, and I love the cybersecurity community because the people are smart enough, not only technically smart, but they're smart enough to realize that you can't solve it all by yourself.
Right.
You need to collaborate. And I do see for the first time a lot of collaboration in the cybersecurity area. But let's bump it up a level, because what you really need from the US government is you need standards. You need NIST standards,
Yes.
and that's where they play a very important role. What you need from the corporations, the key here is financial services, because it's in the finance industry that they're the most innovative, the most creative, and they do things first. I mean, I used to run global electronic trading, and we had to develop systems. And as you know, in trading, most of the traders have an attention span of a goldfish. And here I am responsible for developing trading systems in 160 countries around the world, where you do not make a mistake and have it go unnoticed. So all of a sudden you do it, there's so much money to be made in the fraction of a second that we were developing systems that weren't in beta test. I mean, they weren't out there
Yeah.
any place.
Yeah.
There's a lot of risk
Yeah.
involved in that.
Oh, yeah.
Point being is that's kind of a typical thing. I mean, financial services is a risk management business. And if you learn how to manage or survive in financial services, you'll learn about risk. And it's less about resiliency,
Mm-hmm.
because that just brings you back to where you once were.
Right.
It's more about soft skills of adaptability.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, because if you have to live through a crisis, it doesn't really help you that much to get you back to where you were before. You have to be thinking ahead and making intelligent decisions of where the world is really going to be. because the world is changing, business is changing, everything's changing. So that's where the finance companies play a great match with their innovative processes, which typically goes down through all the sectors.
Yeah.
They don't come up with it first, with government setting some standards, which we really do need.
Yeah, thank you for
Joanna,
that.
real quick, uh, the standards are crucial to the aviation industry. Again, that's one industry where everything is safety critical. Everything is safety critical. The avionics in the aircraft, the design of the aircraft, the way that things happen on the ground, everything is safety critical and standardized. And so you hit the nail right on the head that we need standards to ensure that the people understand, or organizations and industries understand, hey, we can achieve a level well, resilience isn't the word, but security, a secure posture, if we all do this, right? And we do it this way. And so that's very important. The aviation industry, earlier this year, before we started planning, I was asked, hey, what are your thoughts about who we should introduce and collaborate with? And what I said to Air Traffic Control Association, talk to the financial industry. The financial industry. They get it. And so we haven't actually incorporated financial industry in this time, but I'm going to continue to pound on ACTA in a supportive way to say, let's see what we can learn. The aviation industry is coming from point to point communication, and they're moving to an IP based network. The financial industry's been in an IP based network. I'm talking internet protocol now versus intellectual property. They've been in the IP based networking for decades, right? And so let's not learn through consequence. Let's learn by asking some questions and dealing with some things that have already been dealt with through those who are expert at it. And we could be very successful in the aviation industry and critical infrastructure. Over to you. Yeah, over to you. Other questions?
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you for answering the question in such a beautiful manner. Thank you, Shri sir, for emphasizing food sector importance. Thank you, Robert sir, for emphasizing on aviation industry, and thank you, Jude, for emphasizing on financial sector. Of course, we learn a lot from financial sector here. Thank you, Dhaval sir, for coming up with such important points for the organizations. And yeah, that's a great point that corporations and government need to work hand in hand to be successful in this. So my next question is Dhaval sir, you already have highlighted it. So what is the role of human factor in all this?
Oh, yeah. Everything. The systems are typically going to be compromised due to an error that's made by a human. And so the systems need to be simple enough where humans can interface with them with limited or less confusion, ideally no confusion. And we have to find ways that help the human interface without introducing or allowing for the introduction of the threat. The threat vector is coming via email primarily, and it's going to be one that's aimed at tricking the end user, the human, into doing something they shouldn't have done. And now the malware is in the environment, advanced persistent threat, and on and on.
Yeah, June, you can add more.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the human error is and always will be a major cybersecurity threat.
Mm-hmm.
There's no software that can stop a malicious or uncaring human from authorizing entry by clicking on a link.
Right.
And I don't care how many times you tell them don't click on the link and this is what phishing looks like, doesn't matter. So what's very important here to solve the problem as best as you can is the CEO and the board need to have a no retaliation
Mm-hmm.
alternative management path and reward process
Mhm.
for reporting real cyber related issues. Now, I just did an assignment and I was looking through, and at 17, I stopped counting the number of CXO titles.
Wow.
CISO, CSO, CTO, CIO. Then you got, today technology. When I named my company Technology and Marketing Ventures Inc., I was smart enough. I know that did not roll right off your tongue.
Mhm.
And everybody kept saying to me, and I know how to hire those companies who charge you millions of dollars to come up with names, like meaningful names like Google, Kleenex, things like that. So, but when I started it, and people would say to me, well, okay, technology, what little part of technology do you do? And I said, no, you don't understand. I'm doing the whole 9 yards. And they said, well, what do you do in marketing? And I explained many years ago that technology and marketing are intertwined.
Oh yeah.
And one of the problems that you're seeing today is the CMO heading this up, or is the
Mhm.
CTO? Because you got social media and you have all these things out front, especially, and that becomes an issue. So as I continue to count along with all these different C-level titles, one of the things I identified is that there was a guy way down in the totem pole, and it's very often it's the lowest level person who really gets their hands dirty
Yeah.
and knows what's really going on is the key to everything. And he had identified early on with a major software company that there was a big cyber risk going on.
Mhm.
But did he report to the CIO? Did he report to the CTO? And after all, we all have to eat, and we all have to, we don't want to get fired unless we want to get fired. Um, and so he had no path to push it up. He knew what the path was. He was a smart cyber guy, but he had no way to bring it up to anybody.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it was turned out to be a major risk. When the major risk happened, it was in the board, and most, not in all companies, but there are not enough people at the board level who understand even on a broad level. You don't need to understand everything. You don't need to know how to code. But you do need an algorithm to look at all this stuff going on and figure out how you're going to manage this constant change, complexity, and risk. And so, but many of the people on the board, they're very bright people,
Mhm.
but they don't get it. And that's one of the reasons why I'm looking at this unique, tailored business gaming. And I'm looking at tying it directly to the SEC has new regulations right now
Oh, dear.
that they have a cybersecurity person on the board. And more important, not just one, you're all going to have to be certified. And I'm going to certify every one of you
Right.
in a way that's not going to be boring. So that's important thing to do, and only the CEO as the leader can head that up, especially in the retaliation. And there's got to be rewards for it.
Right.
That thing makes a difference. And then if the way I look at it is, if you're picturing a real-time intelligence wheel, the human element is given the same weight as risk, strategy, security, and technology.
Mhm.
It's got to be looked at like that. And a cultural shift must align the human element with security, technology, risk, and strategy. So that's how I look at the human factor.
Very well said, June. Very well said. That SEC, the progress with the SEC changing the posture for the board. You either have to identify whether cyber is dealt with in a committee or across the board, and who, as you mentioned, is doing so, and then that that expertise that the person brings. And no, they're not down there configuring a hardened Unix system. Absolutely not. They're answering metrics. I want to add the National Association of Corporate Directors has a wonderful 53 megabyte of document that helps with questions. It has tools. Deval, I can get that to you if you're not familiar, or somebody can maybe do a search on that. But it's the latest one I have is from 2020. It's wonderful. It is absolutely wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we will
I
follow.
was I used to be the president and treasurer of the National Association of Corporate Directors, the New York City chapter.
Very good.
And so I'm very familiar with it. And one of the things every year they recommend, books for their annual report. And my book, which launched my TMVI algorithm at Oxford, was the must read book.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it is, a problem solving algorithm that everybody needs. I personally run my life with it.
Yeah.
I integrate my life and my work and everything else going on. So, but that's a very good tip. And in fact, I am working with somebody right now. I'm an advisor to Black Ops. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Yeah.
And counterintelligence, tailored business gaming.
Yeah.
And I'm working with them on it. And we might do something with the, NACD
Yeah.
on it. But it's mostly the accounting firms
Mm-hmm.
who are doing that kind of training, and they have their own thing.
Sure.
So that's kind of like a different angle.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm glad that you know about that, and I'd like to. I actually have not looked at that 2020 report.
Yeah, June.
I'll send you the acknowledgement about them recommending my book,
Sure.
which is the evolution of trading.
Sure.
There's a
Earlier
lot
this week,
to go. More than I'm willing to admit to, by the way.
yeah, October 4th, I had the pleasure of moderating a conversation with David Moon, the CEO of Arx Nimbus. Arx Nimbus, their approach for risk management is cybersecurity data-driven risk management. And what that does is takes away the need for professional judgment, or the reliance on professional judgment as it pertains to quantifying risk in the business, and is well understood by the corporate boardroom. So Arx Nimbus, you can find that out there on the net, but the National Academy of Corporate Directors, that 53 megabyte document is just incredible. So Shri, I want to give you some time. I want to give you some time there. Over to you. Over to you.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, Sri, sir, please
Yeah, Tri, go ahead.
go ahead.
No, I completely agree with both of all of what everybody's saying over here, but I do see a lackage when I'm coming back to the human factor point,
Mm-hmm.
is that a lot of the C-suite, especially when it comes to mid enterprises and small business,
Mm-hmm.
being it being it one of the critical infrastructure for our country, making it a large asset, a lot of these folks are not understanding cybersecurity. They think of cybersecurity as just IT, and just roll it off, right? It's creating that mindset. Whenever you're talking about cybersecurity, some of them, they just kind of think we're trying to sell volcano insurance, next to no
We'll
mountain.
try and get that.
Yeah, and it's a challenge trying to explain to them that how complex things are in the back end,
Yeah.
and how easily can this create a domino effect, and raising awareness like these symposiums and trying to explain to them, and when you folks are explaining that on a high level on how country operates, the decision makers of the country make these decisions on and emphasize on these mitigation tactics, the best practices. There's a lot of money being spent here, which
Mm-hmm.
should put some kind of weight and make an average person also think that we do live in a cyber world. As as fancy as it was probably sounding 20, 30 years ago, that hey, we're going to be living in one, we are here, and
Yeah.
the dark reality of it is that everything and everybody is actually a target. So
Yeah.
uh just leaving it up to systems and saying that hey, the systems will protect us, no, it's the mindset that we all as individuals, regardless on a higher level or a lower level, we absolutely need to be aware, or at least cyber aware. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's just my take.
Yeah, I want to take a quick second here. I had an
Sure.
interesting experience traveling from South Carolina back to New Jersey during last week in the storm. I had to make travel changes to my flight. American Airlines was pushing people to their text interaction versus the telephone. I was interacting with the individual, and I said something. Hey, man, said something to the agent about this Air Traffic Control Association symposium. I did that by taking a link, the link to the program. I put it in the chat and I sent it, and I knew that they opened it because they made comments. And I then said, "What if that had been malware?
Correct.
What if that had been malware?
Mm-hmm.
What if this customer service system that's managing all these folks because of the volume? What if I
Mm-hmm.
had inserted malware and that person clicked on it and there was no input checking?" So I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking about cross-site scripting and SQL injection, primarily SQL injection like attack. And I thought, wow. What I did do is I contacted ATCA to say that to them. Hey, I don't know if they do this, but somebody might need to talk to American to say, hey, check your inputs on your systems that users can share with you, because there's no telling what the input might do to your system that you're critically relying on in a weather event. And it's that simple. As we were saying, cyber risk is everywhere.
Yeah.
It's literally everywhere. I happen to be a cyber pro, and it dawned on me, man, you probably shouldn't have done that. Yeah, yeah. But it hit me. You gave them a link. They clicked on it, and that's that. And it was in the midst of, I think that was like Thursday, because on Tuesday I changed my flight to Thursday, and then they said, I looked Thursday, it's like, oh, you're leaving Saturday. And I'm thinking, well, I told you, I thought we agreed Tuesday. I didn't know that all flights were canceled Thursday and Friday. But in the process of texting, I'm interacting with them. Hey, we got to wait. And so I'm interacting with them like I'm talking. I was like, hey, I'm curious. I'm getting a good education here, watching this weather event and how it impacts aviation. And I said, we have this big program. I'm going to say something, and the person clicked on the link.
Yes, I think
Yeah.
it's really important that sometimes the people do go attend cyber trainings, but now if the cyber training is not using the real life examples like what you just mentioned, then
Mm-hmm.
it just stays in a book or the frame of mind. Yes, I just cleared, I got my certification, but you have to implement that in real life. You
Yeah,
know, yeah. How many times you see that like lot many corporate reports have been provided to the users with sensitive data both on screen and for printing purpose, and the employee or the role has no business of looking at the sensitive part of that information. Like, you are not supposed to see somebody's full 9-digit social security number. You're not supposed to see somebody's full address. Your job is just to provide them some service or some audit information, or
yeah,
if it's
yeah.
a revenue report or it's something on a sell side, right? It's just about you are doing a job.
Mm-hmm.
So when you design something, when you present something, you have to always think about the human factor. What if the guy is busy and he had to print out of what he's doing and took on
Yeah,
a train, and he wanted to read on the train and he forgot it, left the paper on the subway or somewhere else. We have to be consciously aware of this human factor during both design your systems, during what you say, like how you can make users life easier, but by making it easy, like giving them a print option. Don't forget again about the security and compliance. The
sure,
user experience is the key to make your business productive, but now it does not go against you and make your business vulnerable.
sure.
Right? Yes.
That text feature was so convenient. I have to admit, it was great. But that vulnerability, I'm hoping that through the architecture of the system, that there's segmentation that prevents some propagation of this malware. But I don't know. I just know that they clicked on that link and it could have been malware.
I'd like to chime into that situation. I was doing a vulnerability assessment and a pen testing assessment for a major entertainment company, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they used systems like SAP,
Mm-hmm.
finance modules, FICO modules, and stuff like that. Going back to what you were specifically saying is when we did an vulnerability assessment and the pen testing, we were able to see that this system used to hold information from employees. Let's say one of the modules of it, let's say I'm a salesperson, I'm going out, I'm having dinner on company or lunch on company's information, but your accounting receipts and everything would have to go to this specific this repository that you had to upload. Well, guess what, there was no filters on it. You could upload an XML file, you could set up a SQL injection or a PDF or an image, and we had to mitigate that by explaining them that, hey, these controls need to be configured that you can either only upload a PDF or a JPEG, and that's it. But it was completely open. Now, this is a massive entertainment company, all around the planet. They have multiple different, there are thousands of employees, with a high rate of travel and everything like that. And this repository is just taking all this information, and there were three databases that linked directly to their accounting management system. So, talking exactly what you're saying, Robert, looking at that scenario on the flip side of it, it's very real.
Oh,
This file integration and file extensions need to be controlled, or as simple as someone sending or an image or with an XML script on the back or SQL script on the back can cause some serious havoc. So I agree with your scenario, but
yeah.
on the flip side, yeah, it's real.
If you executed that link in a safe place, I mean, we say
Sure.
exploded in a safe place, then that's one way to do it. But and I don't know that that didn't happen. I only know that they answered rather quickly to, oh man, that's pretty neat. Meaning, click, I saw it, and you're back. And I'm thinking, whoa, yeah. So again, convenience from technology in all aspects of our life. We haven't touched on digital assistants
Oh,
and the voice component and what that introduces into the vulnerabilities for you, the individual, but so much more. It's a great time to be in cybersecurity.
Yes, I
yeah.
would say that. Yeah, and you know what? This that human element itself helped us actually, thought about securing the systems because we ourselves had got hacked a long time back, and that's how Nehal and myself got into thinking we are the technologists. If we get hacked, lot many other people would get hacked, right?
Right.
So that took Nehal took that thing further. He did some research, and we found the user convenience is actually going against you. Like if you can as easy as copy paste your password and click login, hackers are doing the same thing but in a much better efficient way. They are using powerful computers to brute force your account to
Mm-hmm.
just steal your credentials from some other website. And we all know that nobody can cope up with 18 character credentials, so now it's super easy for them to run attacks against you. So that all led us to think that, hey, why we are increasingly making the user experience difficult while making the hackers experience better. It should be
Yeah.
reversed. So that's how we all came up with interactive rainbow secure.
It's a great product, I must say.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, simplifying the security aspect and accepting for a user not to be stressful just because of compliance has changed, just because technology has moved further. I think it's a very colorful tool, and a lot of scope for it. Just first level of defense, very strong. So that's all I just want to say. Yeah.
Well, also, it's very, I like the fact that it runs on Microsoft's Azure
Yeah.
Yes.
and it runs on Google and it runs on IBM.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, all these companies, as you know, tech companies don't play nicely together. Nobody
Yeah.
ever taught them that. Um,
Standards.
and because they don't, just because it's the same technology, doesn't mean that it's actually the same interaction at the perimeter or any place else. So, like if you take Word or Office 365 and you want to put it on Google, they may have some sort of arrangement because they're all supposed to be in playing as a cooperative clouds.
Right.
Sure.
But that programming is different
Mm-hmm.
for Office 365 when you put it on Google
Oh,
than it is when you have it on Microsoft. So you got another risk there. And then you take that risk, not to ruin your day, but boy, it is very easy and very profitable to be a hacker.
oh yeah.
All you have to do is go out there, and for a couple of bucks, you can buy a list, and you got a whole black group behind there that will take care of it for you. I mean, that's one of the. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to do that,
Jim,
and you can make a lot of money. So that it's very scary in that regard, and that's one of the reasons why you really have to collaborate on a lot of different levels and on a much broader scale, not just your little piece
yeah,
of the action.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Jim, you touched on something that's so powerful. You just need a little money and an idea. Someone has already built a solution for you, and it's compromise or hack as a service. And you don't need to program it. You just need to say, I want to do this, that, or the other. And you might not even need money. The threat actor will say, listen, the X portion of the proceeds come to us.
Yes. And
That's it.
create
I
a
mean,
service. There's a called captcha as a service. Hackers are running this service to
yeah,
help other hackers to crack into your account
yeah,
because so far, because of the two-dimensional password, we only had one defense was I'm not a robot, right?
right,
Now hackers are running this service, doing this scripting attack, and they can really, there's a group of people who help other hackers to bypass that.
right.
So really they are doing it.
I would encourage anybody that if they're not familiar with how to navigate around in the dark web with a Tor browser, just stay away from there. Just don't go there.
Yeah.
You
You
Yeah,
got to
don't
do
have
your
to
due
worry; it's coming
diligence.
to you.
yeah,
You
yeah,
got to do your due diligence, absolutely. And talking about the lists that you're saying. Last time I checked on the dark market, about 1,000 credit cards for less than, I think it was less than $50 in
wow,
crypto. And out of that, I mean, people are like, oh, but how many of them are gonna work? Even 10% of it turns out to be real. That's catastrophic.
oh yeah,
To personal lives, and it matters,
Mhm.
so I completely understand that, you know these things, people need to just have a little bit of a awareness and mindset to, start with the basics, and yeah, or it could get really bad.
I mean, I must say that I'm just so thrilled to be amongst a panel and audience here that is certainly interested, and certainly from a panelist perspective, expert at what you do. I enjoy. People ask me when you retiring. I'm not working, so I mean, there's no retirement in sight. It's just have fun as long as I can have fun. Stay healthy and just do this forever. I mean, that's it. There's a lot to do in cybersecurity, as you can see, a whole lot. And people often want to understand how to get into this environment. We just need intellectual curiosity, critical thinking, creativity, right? And certainly some passion, and imagination helps too, right? And with those things, I'm sure those that you're seeing on this screen here, we can make you into a cyber pro, and you can make a contribution, a huge one. Yeah.
Yeah, really nice. Nicely put.
Thank
I
you,
think
Robert,
I
for yeah. Yes, Sri,
Yeah,
please go
sorry.
ahead.
No, just the last point is, I think a lot of people look at cybersecurity as very technically
Yeah.
looking at, and very robust or something, that you absolutely need to be up to par, up to a certain level before you get into it. It's not that way.
No.
It's just like any other industry. But the good part is that you have a lot more access to it now, to the beginner tips and everything. You started from anywhere, even if you're not coder.
Okay.
If you'd like to go into compliance side, we need people, at least in the United States and around the world. We need good ethical people to help us hold the fort down. And yeah, it is a lot of fun to see how technology evolves and how we can secure it every time. So
Yeah.
yeah,
We had
Sashi, please go ahead. Yeah.
we had a person at the most recent ISC Squared New Jersey chapter picnic, the
Mm,
end of September. He came from the military, and he says, so what were you doing there? He says, oh, well, I was human resources, and he seemed like, well, I don't know if I can get into this. I said, listen, human resources, I know you dealt with training. And so I said, training is probably one of the most significant components of what we have to do because it's the user we have to help, right? I said, we don't need you to go set up the operating, the Unix, and then the other apps, and then the analysts and all that type of thing, the tech people. I said, we need people that do all things. We need writers, we need policy people, we need legal people, we need human resource people. People, we need them.
Yes, very.
absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think that's
Yeah,
I think that's very well said. In particular, the term solutionist goes back a long time ago, and originally the concept was that everything could be solved with technology.
Yeah,
Well, that's not true.
yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, you really have to look at a lot of different factors and pull it together. So, I'll just tell you one story about that. I was driving my car and I had my GPS on, and it was a place where I had never been before. And of course, they had all the roadways changed around. And I'm driving along by myself. And then all of a sudden, somebody calls me on the cell phone, which is attached to my car. Well, it knocked out my GPS.
Wow.
What am I supposed to do? So, there is an example, a very obvious one, of a solution. I don't need that solution. You messed me up.
Yes.
So, and you see a lot of those kind of things where there are solutions in search of a problem, and clearly they mess up other things. Just because it's new or innovative doesn't mean that it's a good idea in terms of all things.
June, let me add to what you're saying. Right now, Facebook is reporting to users that apps in Google and the Apple Store are attempting to compromise credentials. Apps in trusted repositories are attempting to compromise credentials. Now, what am I saying? Well, if I don't need apps and I have very few on my phone, the authenticator and a couple other things, it's not going on there because it might sound novel. Oh, you can have this app, and if you point at a tree, it'll tell you what species tree it is and that kind of thing. I don't need that. I don't need to know that kind of thing just because you can know. Have what's necessary, absolutely necessary, and no more. Because the moment you start introducing, oh, that's nice, and this is nice, and that's nice, here comes the risk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here it comes.
But how about TikTok? How
Oh,
about TikTok?
I don't have TikTok. I don't have Twitter either. I have Facebook and LinkedIn and email. That's it.
Yeah.
Get rid of the Facebook.
Yeah, yeah, they just got rid of 400 apps that was trying to steal the user's credentials.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so for what we're saying to you in the audience, you have to pay careful attention and ask yourself a serious question about what real purpose does this functionality or feature or convenience do for me, and am I willing to trade risk to me and my family as a result? The same question can be said and spoken in a business setting because it can be done and it's novel and like you said, June, some whiz bang feature. Do we really need that? I mean, and what is the risk that we introduce to our business as a result of it? So I had an interesting experience with IEEE Explorer and the IEEE audience there. I was operations staff director for infrastructure and operations, and we were doing $200 million worth of e-commerce revenue in 2001. Newsweek magazine captured that in 2002, and Amazon was not on the list. I can get you that article if anybody wants to see it. I'll make sure you have it, Duval, so you can share it out. IEEE, the only nonprofit on the list, 200 million. Where's it coming from? IEEE Explorer, digital library, and then membership, largely, right? $100 million plus in IEEE Explore. You got 60 or 70 million from the members who are now renewing their membership online, and then some miscellaneous stuff. Almost 200 million. Amazon was not there. They were not there. It's a real interesting thing here. Let's see if I can. You just give me a second. I might be able to quickly do this. Yeah, let me just.
I think there's an option called present to audience.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking to make sure I can get the. So I'm trying to do it quickly, and that's. Okay, so now what I need to do, I just need to close this down. I have what I'm looking for. I'm going to present to audience. Here it is. As you can see, Newsweek magazine, September 30th, 2002. The information on these pay sites on the right-hand side is coming from Gartner. And as you can see, Real.com, they were the top revenue pay site in 2001 revenue. Here's IEEE down at number 11. A number of these companies are not in business now, and are certainly, certainly not with a digital presence. But you can see we were pretty high on that list for being a not-for-profit. Amazon is not present. And so that's what we were seeing at that time. Here's the other. Yeah. So this was the cover of the magazine. Here's some of what you see as the article inside, and there's the chart there on the bottom. So they were seeing the e-commerce growth, and yeah, it was going. And here's how the demographics of the spend, if you will, over here. But we were at about 200 million in revenue in 2001, and that's what got us on that list there. And so the point is that others kept going, right? As I said, Amazon wasn't on the list. So we had authentication, simple 3-tier architecture, web server, app server, database, load balancing, F5s, and clustering on the database for availability. I mean, it was simple stuff, but we were pioneers in doing it. And now here we are. We see what e-commerce is. You're talking about billions of dollars worth of purchases being done on smartphones in this upcoming holiday season. So that's where you are. And that's where it's coming from. It's coming from the near zero, which you saw on those charts. Deval, I'll get you that PDF with the whole magazine cover and everything on it, so you'll see it. But we were not for profit, and I'll tell Jeff Bezos, man, I was beating you. Yeah, I was beating you, Jeff Bezos. If we were downloading PDF, you were making PDF documents available, and that was a blind login. We had libraries, government agencies, corporations, $100 million worth of revenue from a digital library. Today, it's called IEEE Explore, and it's alive and well now. And so that was e-commerce. And all we had to do was introduce additional SKUs, right, stock keeping units for hats and basketballs and fans and whatever else, and we would have been the Amazon. We could have been the Amazon that you know today. We just were giving you PDF documents. Jeff Bezos was selling physical books. We had already had information in electronic format that you could gain access to. So what I'm driving at is e-commerce has come a long way, but this cyber thing, that's where I really cut my teeth in cyber. This cyber thing is huge now. It is the underpinning. If you go to cyberscoop.com, you're seeing that threat actors were in the Department of Defense networks for quite a while. Advanced persistent threat. What do we do? How do we protect ourselves? I mean, the threat actors really eating our lunch. I mean, and the odds are in their favor, right? I mean, we have to protect all the vulnerabilities they need to get through on one. So everything is stacked in their favor. But how do we do this thing? I'll leave with this. Someone asked me, if you could have anything in the cyber realm, what would it be? And I thought about it for a moment, and I said, listen, I'll tell you what it is. Zero vulnerabilities. You give me that, it's game over. We win. We win. You give me a
Zero trust?
zero vulnerabilities. If
What
you
about
said,
zero trust?
well, zero trust is an approach to keeping people out. What I'm saying, June, is if you give me a zero vulnerability situation, we can win. We're losing now because there are so many vulnerabilities and there's 0 days and we can't catch them and someone finds their way in. If you give me a situation of zero vulnerabilities, well, once we get around to mitigating all them, you can't get in. You can't get in. I'm not just talking firewall, I'm talking apps and every avenue by which you might get in, whatever it is as a vulnerability, make that zero, we win. Right now, we're losing. It's good for business, but we're losing.
Yes,
I think it's like trying to
really is
catch
a very,
smoke with zero vulnerabilities.
yeah, everyone would, that's the greatest wish, I think, where every, C-suite leader would like to have it, although they may not understand it, but they would say, yeah, as long as I have zero troubles, I'm happy.
Yeah, well, see, the guy asked me like, "Hey, you get one wish," kind of question. That's what it was.
Yes, yes,
And when he said, I said, "Are you sure?" And he said, "If you could have anything, what would it be?"
you're very smart,
Yeah, and I thought, well, I said anything. He said anything. I said zero vulnerabilities. That's it. Give me that, and I'm happy because it's game over and I win.
really nice.
More bad news is that what we're seeing is that there's a lot of vulnerabilities in these major corporations
It's tough.
that have not been acted on, like with the Chinese, where they put it in there and it could be in there for 10 years and nobody knows it's there. And or they insist it's not there. And I'll say, that's fine. You don't think it's there? I don't think it's there either. But let's do a dive and you discover the risk in your company yourself by going through the right process of doing it. I'm not going to discover it for you. You're going to discover it yourself. You're empowered. And the one other part of good news is that the CEOs and the boards are now feeling from all sorts of different avenues, especially ESG, all the risks involved, that they are personally responsible.
Yes.
You can't sit back anymore and say, oh, well, I don't know this techie stuff,
Right.
But what are you bothering me with? I got big problems to deal with. Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
But so that is a whole other thing. Because when I was on my first board, I mean, quite frankly, all these guys were technophobic.
Yeah.
And that was okay. It's not
Yeah.
okay anymore.
Yeah.
And so that's good news that there is a recognition, because if people don't recognize it, you can't start fixing it.
I want to add right here in this point of the conversation, we're talking about applications that we're familiar with that you might download. We're talking about devices that we're carrying around. But guess what? Every piece of this equipment operates on a chipset. And at NYU Tandem, we're even looking at the chipsets and the vulnerabilities for cybersecurity that operate there. Because if you compromise the chips that run every piece of equipment that's driving software, once again, game over, threat actor wins. It's huge. And I'll say this so that I can rattle some people. Compromise the chipsets that go into nuclear weapons.
Yeah, then
Do that. Do
yeah,
that. Yeah. And
I shoot myself.
Dr. Kari and a number of people, that's what they do. And certainly it isn't just NYU Tandon, but they're a collection of scientists and thinkers, and they're on that chipset issue. Because most people think, oh, well, that's just the machine. Whoa, the machine boots. It has software in it. Software is often reused. You compromise that software at the chip level, or the operating system, the chip level operating system.
You're done.
You're done. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah. So that just goes to show cybersecurity truly is this big thing. So we
mm,
talked about policy and writing and training and this that, but you ultimately get way down to the devices, and you even get physical security.
yes.
Yeah.
I'd like to share something if that's okay. Just adding on to what you folks are saying. I hope I can share my screen real quick. Um,
Yes, please.
I'm not sure if you can see my screen.
Yeah,
It's
we can.
coming. There it is.
We
Okay.
can.
So just talking about Alan Turing, in the 1936, he designed a machine, basically the first electronic computer, calling the UTM, and I think it was called Bombay. And the reason to design this was to create or decipher codes from the German and other areas of World War II. This device basically it was a very successful device, and it reduced the war by 2 to 4 years, which makes a huge difference. Today, this is basically considered the computers that we're using all over today as the father of all of them.
Hmm.
Just to put things in simple perspective, um today's your cell phone, either iPhone or smartphone, Android, whatever you say, the clock itself is about 32,600 times faster than the Apollo 1969 spacecraft, if you think about it. And
Oh,
in today's understanding, the chipset that we hold with our phones today can perform instructions that are close to 120 million times faster than the Apollo, spacecraft. And we can control that. So just to put things in perspective from there to today, I mean, what, probably like 40, 50 decades, if you kind of forward it down in that much, we're at that level. You're holding a lot of information, your personal information, national information, or everybody's information into these devices. And if a malicious actor gains access to such devices, there can be a lot of problems. So yeah, that's all I just wanted to share. I hope this
Yeah,
kind of puts in perspective
yeah,
for
yeah.
people
Really nice.
to,
Yeah, this perspective. Yeah. Sasi,
great
over to
comments.
thank you.
Thank you, Sri Saw. A very impressive way to demonstrate it to the audiences. I hope that would have made the point very clear to them.
you.
So, not taking much of your
Thank
time,
you.
I would request you to finally kindly share your amazing tips and best practices for the users and businesses.
Yeah. Any one line quote you want to say to the
Yeah,
users, what it would be?
Good cyber hygiene.
thank you.
I would say same thing with the cyber security awareness and mindset for everybody. Doesn't matter necessarily or what department or what type of job you're doing. It's everybody's problem, and we are all in this together.
Yes.
So yeah,
Absolutely. I agree. It is everybody's problem. And you do need that accountability and responsibility. And it's up and down the line.
Yeah, I would say that yes. If you own it or if you have access to something, be contribute to protect it. I think that's
absolutely.
What an amazing way to put in perspective like cyber risk involved. Like we talked about vulnerability, we talked about best practices for the user, and a scary side of cyber security also. I hope all the audiences are going to gain a lot of insight from the talks today, from your expertise, from your experiences. They're going to learn a lot. Thank you, Robert, sir, for sharing such a personal experience with us. Thank you for sharing like the slides. Thank you, Sri, so for
Thank you.
making it like more practical for the users to understand like how powerful devices they're having in their hands. June, ma'am, thank you, Infinity, for like sharing your amazing experience throughout your life, what you have gained. We are like just getting 0.001% of it, but thank you so much for sharing it. Thank you so much
yeah,
for
it's worth
participating.
the
Yeah.
decades of experience what we have right now in this panel, and that is from the start of the technology era till we are now going into the metaverse, and people say the 21st century, the HoloLens. I did had some opportunity to play with Microsoft HoloLens and other systems, so I do know that now the future is here, and it's more about now. Let's be pragmatic. Don't forget your lessons learned in the last century, but take that human approach, the ethical approach. That's the only thing here to stay.
Well, let me just say, Deval, you mentioned the metaverse. I'm going to mention deepfake videos.
Yes, yes, that's
Oh,
another critical. The
scary,
more
scary.
Yeah.
better video producing equipment you get, the more better way people can take it.
Who are you talking to in the metaverse? Is it really me or a deepfake of me? I mean, it's like time out, time out.
Yes. Well, guys, it was wonderful to have you all here, and
Thank
it
you.
was a great experience,
Thank you.
great journey over the last hour and a half. We went to time travel. It was like.
This is wonderful. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank
Thank
you
you for
very
having us.
much.
Bye
Thank you
bye.
so
Have
Love
much.
a
being with all of
nice
you.
day and nice
Thank
weekend.
you.
Thank you.
This
Yes,
was a pleasure.
yes,
Absolutely.
yes. Wow.
Thank you. Our honor to be
Okay.
with you today.
Thank you.